Back here, first things first. All right, guys, to say the Atlanta Falcons have underwhelmed and underachieved this season would be an understatement. A 1-5 start, Dan Quinn's fired, and now a report that NFL insiders are openly wondering if franchise cornerstones Matt Ryan and Julio Jones will get shopped before the November 3rd trade deadline. Are there teams that need a quarterback? Of course. Are there some who need a wide receiver? Patriots. Excuse me. Brandon, what do you think? Smart play for the Falcons to clean house before the November 3rd trade deadline?
It's the worst thing you can do. It's the worst thing. And again, Jenna, really it's me as a player. It's me as a player. I'm not putting on my GM hat. I'm not putting on my full-time analyst hat. I'm just thinking about the ultimate goal, and that's winning. In the National Football League, you get 3 years, tops, to turn it around. So you think Raheem Morris, who could potentially go on the run and go from interim head coach to head coach, is thinking about trading his 2 best players in franchise history? You think that's happening? You think the guys in the locker room wants to hear this? Now, from a management standpoint, maybe let's have that conversation. But right now it's about winning. You still have a chance. You're not eliminated. Now, is it almost impossible? Yeah, it's damn near impossible for you to turn it around. But I just don't like this conversation because every time there's a new regime that comes in, the first thing they think about is, let me clear house. Let me bring in my guys. How about work with the guys that you already have? Now, obviously, they're underperforming. They've been underperforming for a couple years. There's something going on, but can you be the guy to turn it around? Could it be that Dan Quinn was just not that guy? So I just hate this conversation every time we let it go, whether a GM or a head coach, someone wants to come in and clean house. I don't like it.
So listen, I get it. I get it. The ultimate goal is winning. Let me tell a very quick story. This weekend was my wife's birthday. She had some friends in from out of town. And one of the friends wanted to go on that ferry ride around the Statue of Liberty, very touristy New York thing.
Circle Line.
And they drove down to wherever that is, the seaport. And as they were walking up, the ferry was pulling off. It was off to sea and they couldn't get on. That ship had sailed and they couldn't get on it. The Falcons winning this year, that ship has sailed. Now, yeah, you could jump in the East River and try to swim and go get there, but it's leaving without you. They're done. And so I get guys in the locker room might really want, like, oh, 1-5 could be 11-5. No, it can't. You're done. So the question is, how do you best position yourself for next year? I would argue Julio's value will be the highest right now because there might be a thirsty contender saying, you know what? We will overpay because we have a window this moment. I think Wild's Matt Ryan's value would be highest in the offseason. Take a team like Jacksonville.
That makes sense.
I don't know if Jacksonville would trade for Matt Ryan right now. But if Gardner Minshew wins them a couple more games, and instead of getting the 1st or the 2nd pick, they end up with the 6th pick, and they know Gardner's not the guy, then maybe this offseason they're like, you know what? We're not going to get Lawrence. We're not going to get Fields. We don't love anybody else. We can get a still in his prime-ish Matt Ryan. So I think Julio should be shopped now. If you are going to shop Matt Ryan, I think the best offers would come in the offseason once teams know, A, if they need a quarterback, and B, if they're going to be able to get them in the draft, Wild.
So you're saying you want Matt Ryan as like Phillip Rivers minus 5 years or 6 years, however old Matt Ryan is, to come in like, oh, yeah, all of a sudden we're contenders. But Brandon, I think it would be difficult, and we just saw it with Andy Dalton, who I still think is an okay quarterback, come in and really struggle. Is it even feasible for Matt Ryan to come into, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk Julio Jones. I think it's harder for Matt Ryan. I don't think it's a question of whether he could like jump in an offense immediately and make it work. I assume that would be difficult. Could Julio just immediately jump in and let's say I'll just pick a random team out of the blue, the New England Patriots, let's say, who did a deal with the Falcons last year for Mohamed Sanu. Just out of the blue. Just out of the blue. And
so you want to go
the same
there?
Year as Cam. Well, look, it's gone to Cam's charity events in Atlanta. It's all, you know.
Absolutely. Let me tell you why. Because you put him outside, whether at the Z position, X position, and when it's one-on-one, you just throw it to him. There's certain things that are universal in football. The slant route is universal in football. The 9-stop, which basically you pretty much run it 10 yards and turn around. You can run it versus off. You can run it versus press coverage. The go ball, the back shoulder. There's things right now where you can insert him. He doesn't even have to know the plays. Cam Newton can go out and say, look, you go out to the right, two yards outside the number, and just run and go. Okay. And he can come in and make an impact right now, but I don't like the New England Patriots for Julio Jones. Wilds. Who I like is the Green Bay Packers. Could this be the moment that you make amends with your guy Aaron Rodgers? You go in the first round, you draft a quarterback. Everyone's like, what are you doing? You're wasting his twilight years. Go get this guy.
Here's the thing.
Maybe Aaron Rodgers.
So, Brandon, here's the thing about Julio. Julio's such a great player. You can pick almost any team, and it's like, oh, that would work. Yeah. Like the Chicago Bears. Allen Robinson wants a new contract. He's in contract year. They're better than they thought they would be. They might actually have a competent quarterback. How would Julio look there? Bleeping awesome is how he would look. The Patriots, how would he look there? Oh, he would be great. But the Packers are interesting because of exactly what you mentioned. They just lost a wide receiver due to injury. Rodgers was obviously upset with what they did in the draft. Despite getting whooped by the Bucs, they're still one of the Super Bowl favorites. Rodgers isn't getting any younger. The Packers, if Atlanta, some teams are weird. We're not going to trade within the conference. But I feel like the Packers might be in a position to overpay right now, saying, let's win a Super Bowl, have Devontae and Julio this year and next year, and see what can happen, Jenna.
Nick, let me ask you a question, though. I know you mentioned earlier that it would be hard to trade Matt Ryan now. You didn't want to wait, maybe more advantageous to the end of the season. But if you were to do it, what kind of team would trade for a guy like Matt Ryan now? Who do you think out there would take someone like Matt Ryan?
Oh, listen, I would be gobsmacked, to use one of your words, Jenna, if he's traded before the deadline. But whether it's before the deadline or in the offseason, Wilds, there's one obvious place for Matt Ryan, and it's San Francisco. We know they don't like their quarterback. He won an MVP with Kyle Shanahan. He knows the system. And if yours and San Francisco can get off Jimmy G's contract at the end of this year, easily. And if you're the rest of the NFC and San Francisco has a bit of a step back year, all the injuries, Super Bowl hangover, Jimmy G doesn't get better, and all of a sudden it's that system with Joey Bosa back Nicky Bosa back from injury, Solomon Thomas back, and Matt Ryan with those guys. To me, San Francisco goes right back to where they were last year as the favorites in the NFC. Wilds.
Oof. What would happen? Let's just play, imagination. What if Andy Dalton continues to stink it up? Do you think they're like, you know what? We're still somehow in first place. You think it's impossible? You're saying 0%?
And just move on from Dak forever?
Because then you have, basically you're moving on
that would be a move on from Dak.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to go give up a first. What do you give up for Matt Ryan? A desperate team can give up a 1. Maybe you give up a 2 for him and
more than
players. You're not going to do that when you have Dak coming back next year. I don't like that. I will say this. Let's take out. You want to play imagination. Another good fit for him could possibly be with Coach Payton, New Orleans. But of course, they won't trade within the division. Makes no sense. But I think that could be a great fit.
And Sean Payton, I don't think, believes Matt Ryan is better than Taysom Hill, so that's not going to happen. But just for compensation-wise, in a world where Jalen Ramsey goes for multiple ones, where we have seen receivers and left tackles go for multiple ones, Matt Ryan would go for a first-round pick, Brandon Cooks, a first-round pick and then some. Like, so what did Jamal Adams just go for? Yeah, I believe. I don't think the world is out on Matt Ryan, Jenna. I think the world is out on the Falcons. Look at what Seattle gave up for a safety. Like Matt Ryan, if he were to come of it, I don't think the Falcons even answer the phone if you're not offering more than just a good first-round pick.
I mean, if it's ringing a lot, you'll probably answer it just because it's annoying. Time now for But First. Check out Ball State commit Tanner Cozio making a sick one-handed touchdown grab. Brandon, my talented friend, did that look at all familiar to you? Because I would like to show you this. This is a catch from your Chicago Bears days. Do you remember this one? Check it out.
I remember this moment. I think we may have... Oh, this was awesome. It was like Sunday Night Football or something. And I mean, I only had 3 catches, but they were 3. It was 3 touchdowns. 3 catches for 3 touchdowns. That was it. That was my stat line. The one-hand catch is just, it's the gloves, Nick. It's the gloves. It just sticks. It's the gloves.
It's not the gloves, but that is the carbon copy of that the high schooler did your catch.
It was the exact same catch. Exact same catch. All right, let's talk some Dallas Cowboys. It's getting real ugly down in Dallas. We'll have the latest from Big D next. First things first. Great catch.